The Outdoor Biz Podcast, episode 150. I believe achieving success in the outdoor biz is dependent upon embracing the outdoor lifestyle and learning from outdoor leaders that came before you. If you agree, then listen up for tips, advice, and hacks about growing or starting your career in the outdoor biz. My name is Rick Sayes. Welcome to the Outdoor Biz Podcast. I can't wait to get into this episode with Austin Coop and his guided Route 66 tours. Thanks to Ches Chesick for connecting us. You can hear Ches on episode 52. Hey, Austin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to catch up with you. I'm glad Ches was able to connect us.
Yeah, me too.
It sounds like a fun thing you're doing there on Route 66.
Yeah, it's it's been several years in the making here, but this year it finally made a lot of sense, and we're kind of off to the races with at least 2 trips, maybe 3 trips running. Going to run this summer, so we're looking forward to it.
Very cool, very cool. So what was your first exposure to adventure travel or travel guiding, that kind of thing?
I think, like a lot of us in this industry, I probably took the long and winding road to get here. I had no idea this world existed in the way it does, when I was in college. Mm-hmm. I went to a great college. I had a great experience, but it was a very traditional in terms of what was offered. And, you picked a major and you just went and did it. And then afterwards you went to a job fair and you got a job. And,
right.
And so that's what I did. So I had a management job that I hated. Long story short, still had that management background and ended up at a travel startup that just needed help around the office. And that transitioned into travel writing. Which transitioned into being on the road, doing kind of on-the-road stories. And then long story short, when the startup started to have some trouble there, went out on my own and was trying to figure out how do I stay in this travel space that I like, being on the road. And that's when I thought back to college. My favorite job was when I was an orientation leader. And I thought, what's the travel adult version of that?
Cool.
And, sent some very generic emails to a couple of the big tour operators. And, a guy took a chance on me, really. And it was totally, again, if you would have told me 6 months prior, I didn't even know the industry existed in the way that it does.
Wow.
And so next thing you know, I'm working as a tour director and getting to go out west and getting to go through, the national parks and getting to be on the road about 200 days a year. And It just ended up being an incredible fit. Something I would have never in a million years.
So you didn't travel as a kid or any, trips,
we were
family trips.
We were a pretty typical Midwestern family. Spring break, you go to Florida, and that's about it.
Wow.
I was in the Scouts growing up, and so I'd get some high adventure activity there. Mm-hmm. But by the time I got to college, my friends weren't really into that, so we didn't do a lot of outdoor stuff, and I'd kind of lost touch with that. I come from a car background though, where everybody in my family's into vintage cars and fixing up old cars, and so the idea of the road trip was always out there. But it just hadn't come to fruition yet. And again, you just never know when all these different things are going to align and send you down a new career path.
Huh. That's interesting. So this is a totally different avenue for you. What were you doing before you did this?
I had done everything from, I'd been a district manager for a grocery store chain.
Yeah.
I had done contract negotiations for physicians for their insurance reimbursement. I'd kind of
completely
just
different.
Been out there, totally different. Long story short, I saw a ad and it said it was a travel startup and said, "Do you like to take road trips? Come work with us."
What was the name of it again? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
It was Road Trippers. They're still around. They're still a great. They're still a great resource for outdoor enthusiasts in terms of planning good road trips. So they're still around. I'm actually working with them again a little bit as we speak. But I'm just total whim.
Wow, that's crazy.
You just never know.
Yeah, good for you. So tell our listeners a little bit about guided Route 66 tours. What's that all about? Obviously, Route 66, Chicago to LA.
Yeah, so Chicago to LA. The idea behind it is, again, working in the guided tour space where you're on a big bus and you've got a bunch of people there. It was great. Route 66 was one of the trips that I was doing for a major tour operator.
Okay.
But the consistent feedback I got was people wanted to drive it. The idea of saying you drove it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I just heard that over and over again. And you've got this segment of the population that they still want a little bit more adventure than just being kind of stationary.
Right.
But at the same time, it's a lot of work to plan it.
Yeah.
So you've got people that are approaching retirement or just getting into retirement. They don't want to spend all their time necessarily planning something like that, but they've always dreamed of doing it. I mean, the common phrase that gets kicked around with Route 66 is bucket list. I mean, it's just all you ever hear is it's a bucket list.
And is it mostly baby boomers and older, or wider range than that?
One of the things that has changed the demographic a little bit is the movie Cars.
Okay, right.
So the movie Cars, everything, they went to great lengths to make that movie just a testament to Route 66. Almost everything, almost every character, almost every little place and part of that movie ties to Route 66 somehow. So we're seeing younger generations get into it. We're seeing internationally, your Australians, your New Zealanders, your British, your German, lots and lots of global interest. So that will skew it younger.
Right.
Right. Very popular with like Japanese tourists in their 20s.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, it's the length of the trip that I think is the major determining factor on the people that are able to go. Just because for your average American, taking 2 weeks off is a challenge. For most Americans.
Yeah, interesting. And you have another travel site, 2Lane America, right? 2laneamerica.com. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so 2Lane. The goal with 2Lane America really was to just be kind of a clearinghouse. I was fortunate to be traveling a lot with the tour companies and being on the road and getting to go to these wonderful places like the Old Faithful Inn or Mesa Falls, Idaho. And these just wonderful places. And so I'm able to take pictures. There's nothing stopping me. So
the classic postcard shots that we've all seen, or Grandma and Grandpa sent us the postcard from there.
So I end up with a lot of great content. And for me, and this isn't true for everybody, but for me, I found that I enjoyed putting it on my own site more than freelancing.
Okay.
The tour directing from a financial standpoint, I didn't feel the need to do a ton of freelancing. That stressed me out, having to keep track of all the different clients and always be trying to like rustle up the next thing. So I've scaled that back dramatically to where I just have, a couple clients there. And so I'll put most of my stuff on my own site so I can retain the rights to the photos.
Right.
And, I'd classify it a hobby site right now.
Gotcha. Okay.
20, 30,000 views a month.
That's good.
But it also, and this is what I'll tell anybody, you'll hear a lot of people, the first thing anybody, when they start a travel blog, is they Google travel blog. And the advice out there is always, your travel blog is not a business. Your travel blog is not a business. And it depends. But the one thing that travel blog is it's a tool that you can use no matter what type of travel you're into, whether it be outdoor adventure,
right.
Backpacking, or, more car stuff like I do.
Right.
You can use that to your advantage. These tourism boards, these museums, places that have gear, stuff like that, you can use that to, help soften the blow budget-wise of funding your travels. You can get access that you would normally be able to get.
Right.
It's a worthwhile endeavor, even if the numbers aren't going to stack up in your bank account.
Well, some of those towns, those smaller towns, even larger towns, they have some pretty significant budget dollars to throw around. I mean, that's a huge opportunity.
Yeah. And, if you're somebody starting out doing that type of thing, these smaller towns will just roll out the red carpet for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They'll treat you so well. And they might not have 1 million Facebook followers, but the 5,000 they have are passionate.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'd be amazed at just how viral some of their stuff can go just because their passion is there. Yeah, so if you're doing good work, it works.
We see that here in the Eastern Sierra with Bishop. I mean, it's just, Bishop and Mammoth are obviously the two draws in the Great Owens Valley. And there's a lot of folks that, just, live to drive up and down 395 and come here in the summer and the winter and recreate and see the sights. And that goes on a lot.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Route 66. So you were doing that route for a tour, another outfitter, right? And you decided to just branch out on your own. Is that where the inspiration came from?
Yeah. So, this is what I love so much about what we're able to do with this kind of stuff is, again, growing up in the old car world, Route 66 was so mythical to me. It was just out of reach, and, I really wanted to make sure I drove it one time, things like that. Yeah. So I was able to do it a lot when I was just reporting on it, right. And started to make those friendships and those foundations. And then getting to do it on as a tour director for a few years was a great experience. And it was just a natural progression.
Sure, love, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up in a little town, Fontana, California, and Foothill Boulevard was Route 66. We drove that road a lot, yeah. So do most people drive it end to end all in one shot, or do people kind of do spot trips?
It just depends.
Yeah.
So your purists are going to do the people that are just fanatical about it. Mm-hmm. They're gonna do it every now and then where they just do the whole thing in one shot. They're going to do other years where they really dive into certain areas. Mm-hmm. There's 3 different alignments of Route 66. So there's kind of like 3 different roads, which can make it complicated. And so if you were to really just do every little nook and cranny, every little small town, every big city,
that'd take you a while.
Easily a month.
Yeah.
Easily.
Okay. Yeah.
Easily. So, my goal, having done it both by myself and then as a tour director, my goal was to come up with an itinerary that hit the highlights, basically.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I think that I was able to craft that and do it in a rhythm. I've done it before in, 10-day bonsai, Chicago to LA. I sent the picture, to all my coworkers when I made it to the Santa Monica Pier, thinking I was the triumphant hero. And their response was, "You look terrible."
You look whooped. What'd you do? Interesting.
And so, you got to have a rhythm to it where you've got some driving days, and then you go to a city and hey, spend a day in that city. There's plenty to do.
Right.
Get your feet under you, go see the sights in that city before you take off on another day of driving. So,
and there's a lot of cities along the way that have kind of embraced the Route 66, nostalgia and really dialed it up, right?
Oh, absolutely. The big cities you're going to hit: St. Louis, obviously Chicago when you start, but St. Louis, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Amarillo, Albuquerque. Those are kind of your big cities. Mm-hmm. But all of them have made strides over the years to increase kind of their awareness of Route 66. And but those cities stand alone. It's the small towns that have really embraced it.
Yeah, some of them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
I was driving through, I think it was Hesperia a couple of weeks ago, and they've even starting to, there's signs going up, and people have, redone some diners and stuff. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it changes every year.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite stretch or spot along the route? You got a bunch of them probably.
Oh, in terms of scenery, the stretches out in Arizona and parts of New Mexico are going to be some of your most scenic. So, a lot of times Route 66 is kind of a frontage road to the highway as you're going through like Texas and parts of Oklahoma. If you've ever driven I-40 out through there, it's exactly where hope goes to die.
That's right.
So the frontage road, I tell people, don't waste your time going 10 miles an hour slower next to the highway. Use that time to go to these other, you can go to this town, instead of seeing the same thing. But now when you get out towards Arizona, around Seligman, so Williams, Seligman out through there, out towards the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Route 66 takes a pretty hard departure from the highway and goes up through Hackberry and even Oatman. Oatman's one of the places that the tour buses don't go because they can't make it up that road.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's where you start getting that really rugged, kind of southwestern,
town, right? People hanging on.
Yeah. It feels, Radiator Springs in the movie Cars. Everybody claims that it's their town that he's talking about. It's a conglomeration of those southwestern towns, really.
Mm-hmm. I have to watch that movie now. I've never seen it.
Oh man,
check it out.
It's great.
Are there any? Do you have any favorite characters along the way that you always make it a point to stop in and see, say hi to, have a burger with them, something?
Yeah, so it's there's so many, and it's what makes this trip different. Is it's about the people as much as it is the places. Mm-hmm. Atlanta, Illinois. There's a guy that volunteers there named Bill. That anytime I come there with a group of people, he's outside to greet them.
Oh wow!
To tell them all about the town.
Cool.
Brings them in. We have a wonderful lunch at this little cafe there in Atlanta called the Palms Grill, and then there's this little Sinclair station in the middle of nowhere, Missouri. Gary Turner, the gentleman that used to run it, has passed away now, but the story always was if you met Gary, you were a friend for life, kind of a very Will Rogers kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And before there was so much, GPS and books and things like that, he was kind of a guidepost. If you could make it to him, he'd tell you where to go. Hey, when you go out here, go here, here, and here.
Yeah.
And he was like a gatekeeper.
Oh, cool.
And he's passed away, but his daughter and son-in-law have taken over, and it's been just wonderful to see them embrace it. They have that same hospitality. You show up, they've got coffee.
Oh, that's great.
Sometimes they'll have ice cream sandwiches at 9 a.m. Whatever they've got. It's just like they open up their doors. There's places like that all along, and of course, the one a lot of people are familiar with is a guy by the name of Angel. Angel's up in his 90s.
Wow.
He's got a little barber shop there in Seligman, Arizona. A lot of people have been there because it's out towards the Grand Canyon.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
So it's a popular spot for just people that want to say they did some Route 66.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Long story short, he saw the town dying right there from the front of his store and worked with some other people to form the first kind of association and basically turned that town into a tourist attraction.
Wow.
And then showed and is still showing the other towns how to do it. And he doesn't cut hair anymore unless it's a special occasion, but you'll see him either in the shop or riding through town on his bicycle, and he's just smile and wave.
Wow,
and
cool.
But there's people like that the whole way.
Hey, and he's 90?
Oh, he's in his 90s. Yeah,
wow,
he's either
impressive.
92 or 93.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Interesting. So after you started this biz, it's still, I guess, a little new, but what are a couple accomplishments you're most proud of?
For me, it was a lot of the proof of concept.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, you start this thing and you're pretty sure there's people that are interested in it, but you're not sure.
Yeah.
And so it's been great to see, again, 2 trips that are for sure going to run this year, probably a third. And I think what's been just as gratifying is, anytime I present somewhere or a booth at a travel show, hearing people come up that aren't quite ready to do it yet.
Right.
But when they say something to me like, I didn't know that something like this existed.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we always wanted to do this, but we were wondering how we'd get it done. Now we know.
Yeah, cool.
Things like that. So just the idea that that I do think that I found kind of a niche that I'm on the right track.
I bet you are. I mean, I think you look at all these, I have a bunch of high school buddies. We're all baseball knuckleheads. And so we go around and, pick a weekend and go to a bunch of ballparks. We've seen all the ballparks, but now there's tours of ballparks. You can pay somebody to take you on tour of ballparks. I think you've got a great concept.
I have a great article that I need to send you of a trip I put together. That's a Florida spring training trip.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're nailed it. What are some of the challenges? Obviously, proof of concept again, probably.
The same things that led me to what I do now the skill set that I need to get this rolling is a little different. So I know that I can do the management, the logistics side of that. I know that I enjoy the tour directing aspect of it and the information aspect. I know that the trips will be great.
Yeah.
It's, the marketing side of it.
Right.
I'm not a marketing guy. I'm not a sales guy.
Yeah.
If I could just design trips and run trips all day, I'd be happy as could be.
Yeah.
So it's always nervous. You put something out there and, will somebody throw it in your face? You get these little self-doubts. And the old saying, you don't know what you don't know until you try.
Until you need it. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And
well, and these days too, a lot of it's technical. All this website building and SEO and whatnot. It's pretty tricky.
Yeah, and at the same time, it's also never been easier in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But it's a catch-22. Every time some of it's really, really easy, and then some of it I get to it and I'm like, what on earth? How am I?
How do I do this? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I can relate with the podcast.
Yeah.
Have you had any mentors that have helped you along the way?
Yeah, you seem to get the right people at the right time in your life. And so at each different juncture, I can think of specific people. I think, there was the guy that hired me at the tour company, that I'm still operating tours with him.
Oh, cool.
Still have a good relationship with him. He took a chance on me. And so I've had loyalty to him ever since. And my very first trip, you do a shadow trip when you do these bus tours, where you kind of learn how they do it.
Yeah.
But you're still scared to death your first night.
Yeah.
So I'd survived the first day and was sitting at a bar having a drink, and there was another guy with a name tag from the same company, and older gentleman. He's been doing it for 20 or 30 years now.
Wow.
And just over a beer, he was able to kind of tell me some things, and he could tell I was nervous. He didn't overload me with information, but what he gave me was so useful. He instilled a lot of confidence. And one of the things he told me, he said, listen, they just need to know that when you've got that microphone, you've got the bus, and that you're the tour director, and that you're going to do a good job for them. And, but you got to make sure you convey that to them, because a lot of the young, when you're younger doing it, and you've got 50 people that all have backgrounds and have retired from places and had corporate careers or whatever, they see some kid saying, oh, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you think.
Yeah. Right. Or they've done research on the area, so they think they know a lot about it, but not much. Yeah. Interesting.
So it's been a steady stream of, and I'm sure you've seen this just throughout the entire, outdoor and travel industry is, people are helpful and people are friendly.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes
really
it such a great industry. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you have any suggestions or advice for folks wanting to get into the tourism game?
There are just so many ways to do it. So, I can tell you how it came together for me from the standpoint of, look at what you love, but then also look at what you're good at, what you're gifted at. What are the things that you not only enjoy, but you can also be a value add. A lot of people think, oh man, it must be great being a tour director, just getting to go all these places. And, I bet it's all just, you have to be like an encyclopedia. And I tell them, 70% of my job is back end logistics.
Right.
I said, my job is management with a customer service aspect to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So think about, what you're good at, where you slot in. And then, don't be afraid to take a chance. Always assume if you're doing something just totally from scratch, don't expect to make any money for a year or two. But there's so many other ways to do it. I don't want it to sound like it's just jumping off a cliff. It depends on your life stage. If you're young, spend your summer being a raft guide in the Tetons.
Yeah.
If you're retired, They take volunteer rangers at the national parks that, you know,
yeah.
There's so many ways to do it that aren't necessarily just jumping off a cliff.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So,
yeah.
And
those jobs too, I was going to say, I was a raft guide for a while, and those jobs teach you so much about management and your people skills. Just, you know, they develop whether you want, they just have to develop, because otherwise people wouldn't be safe. People wouldn't get, you know, around the trail or down the river or whatever. And all those things, whether it's river guiding on the Kern River or a docent at some local park, you know, you learn so much just by doing that, interacting with people. That's great.
Oh gosh. Yeah. The people component of it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, like herding cats.
Yeah, you got that right.
That's very cool. Do you have any daily routines you use to keep your sanity? You meditate, exercise?
Yeah. So, you know, you can kind of split it up into, you know, season and off season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my days look very different depending on that. You know, when I'm in season, one of the things that I do, I always get up early, and I'm not necessarily a morning person, but I found that if I, and I don't care what job you have, like you said, it's the customer service, it's human component. If I get up and rush and then go meet whoever I've got to meet, that first interaction will also feel rushed.
Mm-hmm.
So I will get up nice and early in the morning, you know, take my time getting ready and just really kind of go through. You know, I do have a little prayer routine that I'll go through. In terms of exercise, when I'm on the road, I'm probably not a great example of health and wellness.
It's tough.
You know,
it's really
there's
tough.
too many.
It's
there's
tough.
too many microbreweries. There's too many great. I mean,
too many opportunities to taste test, and exactly.
Yeah. So, and you know, there's a trade-off. You don't want to. It's part of the reason you do it is to enjoy. So one of the things that helps you, you know, I'll track my steps when I'm on the road and make sure that my steps are up there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're in these beautiful spots, you know, like Yellowstone, you know, just walking, you know, just staying active. And then, you know, I'm an intermittent faster, so I will typically skip breakfast, which in my particular line of work, I typically would do anyway, just because, you can eat breakfast and you're not on the clock, but your guests are going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you're at work. You know what I mean? It's not really like a leisurely breakfast. Yeah. So that helps me calorie wise. You know, I may eat one really terrible dinner with a bunch of beer, but it may have been the only thing I ate that day.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
kind of like a bear. And then I spend all winter trying to work it off. So.
Yeah, that's good. Those are good. Yeah. Do you have any favorite books, or do you give books as gifts very often, travel related or otherwise?
You know, I used to give books as gifts quite a bit. I love to read. I think all my friends and family are tired of that. In terms of Route 66, anything by Michael Wallace or Jim Hinckley. Michael Wallace was one of the main. He was actually the tour guide for the Pixar producers when they were doing development on the movie.
Well, we'll find that and link to that in the show notes. That's cool.
So yeah, Michael Wallace is great. Jim Hinckley, anything he's done is just a wealth of knowledge. Other than that, you know, I try to, it's weird when I'm on the road, I will not read anything about the place, like anything travel or outdoor related.
Really?
I will read just garbage fiction,
just
whatever I feel like.
Complete distraction. Yeah, get your mind off.
But now during the winter, I'll start to dig in. You know, one of the trips I do quite a bit is Nashville, Memphis, New Orleans, kind of tastes and sounds of the South. So right now I'm reading Rising Tide, which is about the Mississippi flood in 1927.
Oh, wow, cool.
So I kind of, again, you've got that on season, off season, and then the off season, you start to, after a couple of weeks, you start to itch. You start to, I want to get back out there.
Yeah.
So I try to bone up, but in terms of giving the books, it just depends. But I'm definitely a big reader. I just
cool.
Don't give them out as much anymore.
Yeah, I seem to do the same. Do you have a favorite gear purchase under $100 that you got to have with you at all times on your tours?
You know, I was thinking about this question a little bit.
Seems to throw everybody a little bit of a curveball. I like it.
You know, I've never been a hardcore gadget type person. And I thought just a little outside the box. The best $100 that I've spent for the line of work that I'm in was the $87 I spent on pre-check, TSA pre-check.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that hasn't been mentioned. A lot of people have mentioned the parks passes and those kind of things, but that's a good one.
Yeah, the park pass, one nice thing about doing the guided tours is I get in for free, so I don't typically have to get a park pass. But park pass is a great one, but that TSA pre-check,
that's huge. Yeah,
just a game changer.
Oh yeah.
So if you're flying at all for this type of work like I am, I was amazed at how much better that made my life. The other thing that I do is more of a packing thing. I don't have an expensive suitcase. I don't do anything like that. But packing cubes.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And that's more like a $20.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're not talking big money here.
I still use those. Yeah.
Packing cubes have revolutionized my life.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I've been using those since I was at Eagle Creek when we launched them. They're fabulous. Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, they're just amazing.
Yeah, what a great tool. Yeah. As we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to ask of our listeners?
No, I know that everybody's a little different in terms of their style of trip, but if you've ever thought about doing a Route 66 trip, I would ask that you would check out our guided route66tours.com.
Yeah.
Or know somebody. And that's the other thing. If you're in your 20s or 30s, you may not necessarily be at the life stage, but I bet your parents are.
Right.
So just to keep that in the back burner, that we're going to be adding additional itineraries. The goal is to ratchet up some of them so that they appeal to a more adventurous audience.
Oh, you could go you could go a lot of different directions for that. You could have the beer tour, the food tour. Yep. I mean, yeah, that's awesome. Cool.
So, keep your eyes peeled on that. The Guided Route 66 Tours has a little email sign up there, and when we announce new itineraries, it'll be through that. And anytime people have questions, I'm an open book. Even if you're doing a trip on your own by yourself and you just had a question about the best way to do Yellowstone in a day, my email's all through there. I'm happy to answer questions anytime.
Well, we'll link to all that in the show notes, both your websites, and we'll put your email in there. That's awesome of you. That's generous of your time. Yeah, that's great. You're an expert, so people should reach out and find out the cool spots to go. Well,
if I don't know the good spots, I can definitely tell you the bad spots. I've been in some pretty terrifying places.
That's right. That's sometimes better. Don't go here. Go. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks for being on. It's been great catching up with you.
Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I have to figure out a way to put together some kind of a trip on Route 66 with you. That'd be a blast.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. All right, man. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Rick. You too.
See you. Bye. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to go to the outdoorbizpodcast.com where you find all the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. Until next time, be sure to make time to get outside.